Hey, welcome to this morning, this afternoon, today's News Monday, Manic Monday version of the Rundown. I am your host, Mike P. Waworski, coming to you from the eastern coast, the free coast of the United States. Well, if you go to the southeastern coast of the United States, that's the free coast. But I do not do this program by myself.
No, I am Craig DeLuz coming at you live from behind enemy lines, from behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, which separate California from the rest of the nation. While y'all are in America, well, I am in, not America, but enjoying life nonetheless.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? If you could afford to get out of there, you would, but with a 53% tax rate, you're kind of stuck. So,
well, it's not a matter of affording. It's really just a matter of if I can convince my entire family to move, that might be a possibility. But, it's California's my home, man. I love it. I'm going to be fighting for it for as long as I can.
Yeah, I felt the same way with New York at one point, and then I did the whole, hello? Hey, yep, yeah, I'm in Florida. Yeah, just come see me. All right.
Yeah,
that run for the border.
That does tend to happen. Especially as you get a chance to watch free Americans celebrate Independence Day. I still continue to wonder what the left is celebrating on Independence Day when they really don't believe in people being independent.
Yeah, listen. Right, I mean, exactly right. They don't understand that they're celebrating the day that we shot the people that were being tyrannical over us. And we did that with firearms, by the way, and cannons. We did not have nukes or F-15s back then, but we did have cannons, so we used those. And then you live in a state now where you can't even have fireworks to celebrate the killings of your oppressors.
Here's the thing I'm going to tell you about that. It sounded like last night throughout Sacramento County, which is where I live, no matter where you drove, it sounded like you were in a war zone. There were so many. When I say fireworks, I'm not talking about the safe and sound or sober ones, whatever they call them, the ones that stay on the ground. I'm talking shooting up into the air. It looked like the city was under attack. And someone, a local news anchor, asked a question about it. And I noticed, I said, look, in a day and age where people can throw rocks and Molotov cocktails at law enforcement and at police cars, who cares about illegal fire? I mean, who's going to take the illegal fireworks laws seriously?
Yeah, listen, wasn't it New Year's this year where because during the COVID, I forget it was New Year's or July 4th last year, where Los Angeles said they came out very, very strong against fireworks and reminded everybody how illegal they were, and that it's almost as if they went out and bought extra and pointed all of it at City Hall.
That's exactly what I'm telling you right now. That's exactly what it was like last night. You could just hear it just sounding off for hours into the night. It was the sound. It was the sound of freedom, but it was also more the sound of defiance.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't know about you, but in my neighborhood, we've got one of those Facebook pages for our neighborhood, and this morning's comments were, "Hey, listen, could you guys keep your dogs and your kids quiet this morning? We were up late doing fireworks last night."
I know. What's up with that? I'm sorry. You know what? Maybe our dogs and our kids wouldn't be so rattled up this morning if you hadn't been shooting fireworks off till 2 a.m.
Well, they had them left, right? And I don't know where you live, Craig, but the celebration of fireworks here lasts from about June 28th to July 9th.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It started. We have a neighbor down the street, man. I'm telling you, has been shooting them off for the last several weeks, and for some reason decided to wait till 10:30 at night to start their aerial performance.
Well, I mean, you got to get on the schedule. You don't want to do it at the same time somebody else does, because then you got people in the neighborhood doing this, and you could hurt a neck that way.
Oh man. So I'm assuming you had a good 4th.
You know what we did? We went to Buc-ee's. I took the family to Buc-ee's, and for those that know what a Buc-ee's is, it's like the world's giant superstore gas station out of Texas. We got a couple new ones here in Florida. They'd never been, so my celebration of the 4th of July was to take them to Buc-ee's. So, and I get no money from Buc-ee's, none at all. But it was just fun to watch them drive the hour with me to go to a gas station. I win.
Yeah,
I win.
that must be a
I win.
Florida thing. That's got to be a Florida thing.
I win. Yeah, Craig. You know what we did do? We spent 3 hours in there, though. That's how big the place is.
Nice. Nice.
Yep. We got selfies at Buc-ee's. Yeah, that's the kind of place it is.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. All right. Well, hey, I think it's time for us to get into today's news, buddy.
Let's do it. First bit of, I don't know, we call it news. We'll call it topical. How about that? We have certain celebrities that are a little upset that the Olympic runner, the female Olympic runner, U.S. Olympic runner, Sha'Carri, I apologize for mispronouncing that, Sha'Carri Richardson. She recently received a 30-day ban for testing positive for THC, which is the narcotic, the illegal substance inside of marijuana. And she took the hit. You know, she's not happy about it. She has her reasons and excuses that she is thrown for being having THC in her system. Well, evidently, this has offended some celebrities, Craig, and you know how we feel about celebrity opinions here on the program.
Shut the hell up. That's how we feel about celebrity opinions because, well, dude, so here's the thing, man. And I will give her some credit. You know what? She said why she did it, but she's not asking for any disparate treatment.
Correct.
She's not asking to be treated special. She's like, look, this is why I made the choice. This is why I did it. I'm going to own it and accept the consequences. And what gets me is why other people can't. I mean, we've got people, dude, I got into an argument with somebody over, they bring that up. Then they're like, well, why is it that weed is banned, but alcohol isn't? Well, maybe because alcohol, for the most part, in most places in the free world, is not illegal. Whereas marijuana, even in the free world, in many cases, is still, in fact, illegal. I agree it's not a performance-enhancing drug, but in the end, in many places, it is still illegal. And by the way, it's still against the rules, even if it's not illegal, right? Then they want to bring up, well, how come they can now have transgender athletes competing as women, but they want to make it so that female athletes with a certain testosterone level can't compete? Well, that has to do, one has to do with the political correctness of allowing transgendered male to females compete as women, which I think we can agree we disagree with. But then the other has to do with, athletes doping, right? That's why when females generally only have a certain level of testosterone if they've been using performance-enhancing drugs. And I'm like, they're trying to tie together and conflate all of these things together in order to claim, now I already know you know where it's going here, racism as a thing. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Let's see if I get this up there real quick.
What does that say? Hey, celebrity opinions.
Hey, look, celebrity opinions.
Opinions.
That's professional right there, folks. You can't get that kind of graphic stuff like that quick without not being a professional. Craig, listen, yeah, the number one reason, listen, it's illegal. It's on the ban list. That's just pay attention to the rules, right?
Right.
Number two, and this is where Seth Rogen, he's a comic actor. He's not too bad. But maybe Seth, you should worry about, I don't know, the Canadian Olympic team because you're a Canadian, and you go deal with your Canadian business up there. Mm-hmm. You hoser, take off. But third, here's my issue with them is, marijuana is not a performance enhancing drug. No, it's technically not a performance enhancing drug. You don't use it during the event. But Craig, you're big into fitness. Fitness has been a big part of my life as well. And I could tell you that the side effects, what marijuana does is it relaxes you, right? It's a depressant. It lets you relax. Craig, is it better to train and get ready and stretch when you're very tense or when you're relaxed?
When you're relaxed.
When you're relaxed, but you get these people, they've got $1 million deals on their shoulders, getting on the covers of a Wheatie box. They get all tense. They go out and pull a muscle. You know what you can do before you train? You may not before you go out and break a record, but before you train, you can use it to relax.
Yeah.
And then go exercise. So to say it's not involved in the process is a lie.
Well, once again, all that aside, it's against the rules, and you don't have to like the rules. Petition to change the rules, but you don't get to that. You don't break the rules And once again, she's not claiming this. She's not asking for this. But someone doesn't get to go break the rules, and then we decide, well, because this is a special athlete, we're going to now break the rules. Because guess what? It's exactly what the NBA did with LeBron James.
Yeah.
They let LeBron James play, and he was supposed to be suspended for violating their COVID protocols. But they let him play. Christian Porzingis, he didn't get to play. He was suspended.
Well, LeBron's bigger than the game. That's why,
Right. Well, and that's what you tell people is the rules don't apply to everybody.
Yep.
And I think that is a very bad lesson to be teaching, especially young people, because guess what? The rules do apply to everybody. And if you think that you're so special that the rules don't apply to you, eventually you're going to find out that they do. And the older you get, the further you get along in life, the more dire the consequences of learning that lesson are. And in my opinion, I think it's a very important lesson that we ought to be teaching young people about. Look, these are the rules. If you want to change the rules, that's one thing. But if you're going to go violate the rules, you have to pay. You got to pay the piper. And there's so many people out there who are making excuses and don't want our children to learn this. And I'm just going to be real with you. If you are an urban inner city kid of color, they can least afford to not learn this lesson, because you've already got all these issues that you've got to deal with. And now you're going to add on top of it that you're going to put yourself in a position even further behind. I mean, that's just something. I don't know what you got going on there, Mike.
Wow. My camera just decided it wanted to leave.
It was
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Camera just decided, I've had enough of Craig. I'm out.
But dude, it must be. Let me guess. Is it a black camera?
Let's get this. Did you see that? I know it's off topic a little bit. LeBron James this weekend again decided he was bigger than everybody else. His son was in a tournament at LeBron's old high school, and he decided he did not agree with one of the announcers' calls. Now, not the referee, but one of the announcers. So he stood up in the stands and started yelling at the announcer. And when the announcer still didn't correct the issue, LeBron went to the down on the floor and started arguing with the announcer during the game, and they had to stop the game. Well, it's okay. It's LeBron. He's allowed to do that. So that's how big he is.
Right.
I'm having a little disconnection effort here. You may want to switch to your camera for a moment.
Yeah.
Well, fix this.
Yeah. So what winds up happening when people do stuff like that is once again you're teaching children a very, very invaluable lesson, and a lot of these athletes. And here's the hard part: these guys and gals are so talented when they're young that people let them get away with stuff. They excuse bad behavior. Or making it so they don't have to comply with the rules because they're such talented athletes. Whether it's disciplinary, whether it's grades, whatever it is in school, there's so many different things that we do for people because they're special, right? And what they don't understand is that but in the real world, it doesn't care about you being special. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the piper, and you're going to have to be accountable for the decisions that you make. And like I said, I will give this young lady total credit in that she is accepting responsibility for the decision that she made. I'm disappointed. I hope that the way the suspension works will allow her to be able to compete and run in the Olympics. As I understand it, she may have an opportunity to run in the 4x100. Right. Because you don't necessarily have trials for that, so they may be able to allow her to run there. But I think from what I understand, she's going to wind up missing the trials for the 100 meters, which is why she's not going to be able to compete in that.
Yeah, it's going to be close. But guess what? With every action, there's consequences, and perhaps this is what she learns. I would recommend to her if anybody knows Shikari. That perhaps some of the way she deals with stress she may want to look into rather than going towards drugs. So,
well, yeah, and like I said, man, it's one of those. I really would have liked to have seen her run, but once again, even more importantly, I think it's a lesson that all young that people in general need to learn. And I think she's learning it. She's learning it the hard way, and it seems like she's taking it like a grown woman. And I will at least tip that. Because guess what? We all make mistakes. We all do wrong stuff, and but we also have to be accountable, and we have to own our stuff. And it sounds like that's what she's doing.
Not Seth Rogen.
There are these other people out there who refuse to own to own their stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move right along here. We have the Department of Homeland Security has issued a warning about extreme violence that may be occurring here over this holiday holiday weekend. They believe that we're going to be seeing some action by. Hold on, let me make sure I have the acronym correct here, Craig. It is the RMVE WSs. And for those of you that want to know what an RMVE-WS is, it's a racially motivated, violent extremist, white supremacist. Okay. Could we be trying to isolate one group of perhaps potential voters for the opposite side any more direct than that? Craig, this is like the formal way of saying old fat white guy that voted for Trump. This is what they're saying here.
Well, and see, the stupid thing is that then they try in the article, they try and tie it to the violence that took place in 2020. But the violence that took place in 2020, it was not violent white extremists. It was racially motivated in that it was basically Antifa and Black Lives Matter coming together against everything American, everything white, everything law enforcement. But it wasn't. I mean, the only thing that you can look at in the entire, and that wasn't even last year. That was this year. Was January 6th. One incident. Yet you had hundreds. There were over 600 violent protests. Now, I won't call them protests. They were riots and looting that took place in 2020. Now, that was only a percentage of the overall protests. But 600 in major cities. I mean, you had entire city blocks taken over. And yet they call what happened on January 6th an insurrection. Can you really have an insurrection, an overthrow of the government without any firearms being involved? Except, of course, the one that was used to shoot one of the insurrectionists.
That's correct. The innocent, unarmed insurrectionist. As she was, committing the deadly task of going through a window that was leading to the critical area of a hallway that led to nothing. Let's forget about all that. Let's forget about not naming the law enforcement officer there. For that or whatever it was. We don't even know it was a law enforcement officer. We know it was some dude in a suit. That's all we know. So that could have been anybody. But anyway, let's jump off of that because we could spend an hour on that one alone. These right wing, racially motivated, violent extremists, white supremacists are allegedly coming for you they're coming for this nation because they are fed up with, the government in itself. This is absolutely, I mean, again, laying the Democrat Party, the presidency, laying the groundwork to go after Trump supporters, DeSantis supporters, conservative supporters, Ronald Reagan supporters. It doesn't matter what it is. They are trying to legally declare war on the opposition. And this is what we've talked about with you every week. It seems we bring it up at least one time, how President Trump did not put Hillary in jail and let the country be. Yet this administration is all for supporting the legal arresting separation of the two sides in this country.
Well, and Mike, I will tell you, for those of you out there who, some of you out there have been getting messages, for example, from Facebook that someone, one of your friends or some of your friends might be exposing you to extremist content. Well, I've surmised something, Mike, because I didn't get one of those messages, and then I've come to realize why. Because I think I'm one of those friends exposing people to extremist content. Things like, I don't know, the right to keep and bear arms, things like personal responsibility and personal rights, things like the right to stand up against, and matter of fact, the responsibility to stand up against a tyrannical government. These are all things that, quite frankly, that clearly Facebook and the government believe are extremist. The only thing is I think I get away with it because I'm not white.
Oh, you think that's it? You think you get the pass? All right.
I think that's why I get a pass.
Yeah. Listen, my banner looks much like the flag behind you, except it says, "I am the colonial revolutionary your friends warned you about." So yeah, this is absolute crap. This story goes on to Again, DHS all of a sudden. Remember, DHS was actually a very, very respected agency under the Trump administration, doing everything at the wall, at the borders, protecting us, going after the likes of MS-13 out there in Long Island. Remember the great work they were doing there. And now all of a sudden they have become the henchmen for the Harris Biden administration there, where they're going to start naming white people. White people. It's your problem. It's all white people's fault. So that's
wait. You're just now learning this, Mike, that it's all your fault?
Clearly, listen, we've known that one side always opposed the white people side, but now you've got government agencies telling you it's the white people fault.
Yeah. Own it, bruh. Own it.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, let's jump down into Florida down here in the southeast. There's a judge in Florida who decided that it was not unconstitutional to ban firearm ownership for 18 to 20-year-olds. Now, it was a 2018. We had the shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. We had our Rhino governor at the time, Rick Scott, who is now Senator Rick Scott, signed the legislation. He could have stopped this, but decided he wanted to be a senator, not just a governor. So he fell to the side of the media and the liberal and signed in this Stoneman Douglas Act into law. One of the things it did was took away the ability of 18 to 20-year-olds to purchase a firearm from a licensed dealer in the state of in the state of Florida. And that's a long gun, because there has long been a prohibition against 18 to 20-year-olds purchasing a handgun. Now they said they could not purchase a long gun. That's a rifle or a shotgun. Because remember, the shooter down there had a long gun that he legally purchased. Correct? This was while he was under FBI surveillance. This is while the Broward County Sheriff's Office had something like 29 contacts with him, and yet did not take a firearm or prosecute him or put him in jail, because that meant they would have lost their grant monies from the Obama administration for the Juvenile Protection Act that they were going for. They got more money for kids if the kids didn't go to jail. So because of Obama's policies and the FBI's policies at the time, 17 people were wounded and 17 people were killed in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. So the way we punish everybody else is to prevent other lawful, legal 18 to 20-year-olds from purchasing a long gun to protect themselves. That includes, by the way, if you happen to be the spouse of a military member or the spouse of a law enforcement officer, and you're worried about being at home by yourself while your spouse is off overseas protecting the country, or at work, fighting off the bad guys. God forbid they find out where you are. You're not allowed to protect yourself or your young family.
Well, what's funny, what's interesting about this, Mike, is first of all, it doesn't prohibit someone from being able to give you a long gun, right? So in other words, I can go and I can give if I have a 20-year-old son, I can give him a long gun, but he just can't go buy one himself or herself. What's also interesting about it is that this judge, who is an Obama appointee, actually decided, compared being 18 to 20 to someone with mental illness, compared it to people who've committed felonies, and considers that to be a reasonable, reasonable excuse for denying someone, an adult, an otherwise legal adult who is civilly and criminally legally responsible for all of their decisions, from being able to own or possess a firearm. And I'm like, this makes absolutely positively no sense. To compare being 18 or 20 to a mental illness or to being a criminal. I mean, if we're going to now allow discrimination based on the statistics, because once again, if we want to look at it, there's a certain, not just those who are under the age of 21 are more likely to be both perpetrators and victims of gun violence. But when we start breaking it down by socioeconomic status, by ethnicity, one can actually dig very, very deep and realize where the majority of specifically go after that young group, African American and Latino males under the age of 21, and forbid them from being able to own or possess any firearms. And you would solve the majority of all quote unquote gun violence. Now, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm saying when you start allowing discrimination, that's exactly what you're going to wind up getting. Let's say we want to stop straw purchasers. Well, guess what? Let's make it sure that young women under the age of 25 aren't able to purchase firearms either, because guess what? Guess who the number one group most likely to be straw purchasers are? So we're going to now prohibit them from being able to purchase firearms. I'm not advocating that. I'm telling you that that is where this kind of discrimination eventually leads to.
Yeah, this is Judge Mark E. Walker. Like you said, Judge Mark E. Walker, an Obama appointee. The stones on this guy, Craig, he said that one of the reasons he did not allow for this to go through, and this was a National Rifle Association brought lawsuit, by the way. One of the reasons he did not allow this to go through was because he cited Heller. He cited the Heller case, Heller versus DC, and which said long-standing traditions. It does not include, the ban on firearms does not include such things as long-standing traditions. And he said, well, I know you brought this lawsuit to me directly after the law was passed, but now the law has been in for a couple of years. That makes it a long-standing tradition, so I'm not going to change it. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said?
Yeah. Well, but that's the crazy thing, but that's what these anti-gunners do is they know some of this stuff is unconstitutional, but they figure by the time it actually works its way through the courts. Now think about it. It's 3 years later, right? Yeah. It's 3 years later, and it just now a district judge has now ruled on it. So now it's still got to go to the appellate process. Oh, yeah. Then eventually it may or may not make it to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. This is a big deal. This is a case that, listen, I don't care what organization you are. If you're in Florida, if you're in the Southeast, this is the kind of thing that you should be working on and focusing on and spending your energy here rather than, worried about some fishing trivia nonsense. This is where you should be. You should be focusing on the fundamental right to keep and bear arms. This is it. This is where you should be. This is a very important case, and we've seen it in many other states as well. Happened after the knee-jerk reactions to things like Sandy Hook and Parkland shooting. So this is where I believe focus should be spent for a very, very large portion of the time. All right, let's move along here, Craig, with the new infrastructure deal. And you know what, Craig? I think you know a little bit more about the new infrastructure deal, so I'm going to let you take this away, and I'm going to be the one to shoot holes through all of it this time.
So, Mikey, here's the thing, and if you were paying attention last week, you'll notice that the president came out surrounded by both Republican and Democrat senators, basically talking about this new deal, this new infrastructure deal, this big bipartisan deal that they had worked out to deal specifically with infrastructure. We're talking supposed to be roads, bridges, schools, broadband, things that were actual infrastructure. And they worked out a deal for right around $1 trillion worth of infrastructure stuff, right? And then Nancy, you know who Nancy is. Nancy Pelosi decides to come out and say, well, unless we get this other stuff, then we're not approving anything unless this other stuff passes first. All the non-infrastructure stuff, all the government handouts that Democrats were asking for, right? So then the president comes back out and says, oh yeah, no, there was always an agreement that the two were going to go together, which nobody knew what the hell he was doing because he totally went back on what he said. Well, now it's supposedly back on track, and he's saying, no, the two are not linked. They don't have to be passed together. Obviously, they're going to keep fighting for the other stuff, but the infrastructure deal will go through with Republican support. But here's the thing, and this is the thing that's happened, and I can tell you because it's happened here in California. While this money is supposed to go to real infrastructure, roads, bridges, schools, one of the things you're going to start to see, and a lot of people are pushing climate change as a part of this infrastructure deal. Meaning, for example, things like money that's supposed to go to roads will go to things like bike trails, right? That will go to things that will keep people out of their cars, keep people from actually being able to get anywhere. It will go into transit-friendly developments, which basically means trying to force people who don't want to live in these urban inner cities run by Democrats, that's where all the new housing and everything is going to be. So that's where you're going to have to move. So a lot of this deal, this new infrastructure deal, is not going to actually be infrastructure. It's going to be environmentalism.
Yeah, all of a sudden the climate is part of the infrastructure, Craig. You know, I recently saw a story this past week that shows that that Florida, by the way, won't be here in about 25 or 30 years. You know, we'd pretty much given up on the whole oceans rising and taking everything away. We see what goes on, during certain storms and how that beats away at the coastline, and you shouldn't build that close to the coast. We get that. Right, but we're back to again. It's climate. The polar ice caps are going to melt. Your waters are going to rise. We're going to lose Florida. We're going to lose New York City. We're going to lose everything on the coast. And so we need to throw more money into the infrastructure plan. And as soon as I saw that story last week, I was like, oh, they're trying to get more climate control money into this infrastructure plan. And sure enough, it took them all 3 days to break the original story how the coasts are in danger to. We have to put more money into the infrastructure plan to save the coastlines, which means, by the way, Craig, to reinforce rich people's properties that live on the beach. Yeah, guess who that benefits? Oh, let's see. Those lobbyists that put money in the hands of politicians or the back pockets of politicians, because this doesn't help anybody, like you said, sitting in the inner cities or regular communities in the suburbs, anywhere else. This is going to help those $1 million homes sitting on the water.
Yep, Nancy Pelosi and her friends. That's who it's going to help. And it's anyway, man. It's highly frustrating that you can't get people to see the reality of some of this. It's like, and this is what they do. They redefine stuff. So now all of a sudden, things like climate change, or things like bike trails and things like that are actual infrastructure. No.
Yeah,
roads, bridges, schools, government buildings. Broadband, I will say, because it is so necessary to conduct business online, I do believe that broadband now qualifies as infrastructure.
Does the government need to be involved in it? I don't know, Craig. We all got along 20 years ago without the internet. So what in 30 years ago, 50 years ago, I don't know. We needed roadways. We definitely needed that. We definitely needed rivers and bridges. We needed those. I'm not sure that it's a necessity more than it is just a comfort item now.
As someone who does this, who deals with infrastructure and deals with online stuff, and I do this for a living, I can tell you that there are certain communities, certain places where I literally could not be. I could not have my business. I would not be able to function and do what I do if I lived in certain areas because of the lack of digital infrastructure. I just think the way in which we do business now, and I think that was largely, if it wasn't already true, if it wasn't already seen, I would have to say that COVID definitely revealed, it wasn't COVID, it was the government mandated lockdown that revealed, the scamdemic that actually exposed kind of the need for better infrastructure.
Well, sure, because they knew they could control it as well and make sure they fed you all the information they wanted. Because, listen, like you talked about before, now you're labeled, or maybe you're not, but I'm labeled an extremist, or you're an extremist friend on the internet. That's because, by the way, that's because the fact checking stopped working. All the facts were correct, so they had to now label us as extremists. I don't know, Craig. Could we have gone back to newspapers? Could we have gone back to paper products? I don't know. I'm on. I'll just say this. I'm on the fence. Is wireless internet infrastructure? I don't know. Critical infrastructure.
I would say this, and I use the example of, for example, if we had better infrastructure and better availabilities, would Parler have been shut down the way in which it was?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's an example of a place that actually, and I don't consider Parler to be conservative. They just actually believe in, allowing people to have freedom of speech and express their opinions, views, values, and whatnot.
Well, maybe that's a good point there. Maybe you make a good point. Listen, I might be more for allowing infrastructure, critical wireless internet infrastructure, if it was an open place. Where it was both sides of the argument rather than just one side of the argument.
Right.
Maybe that's why I'm hesitant to say, "Oh, go ahead and do it," because I don't want more of the Facebook, Twitter kind of crap pushed down upon me without having the opposite side allowed to be spoken.
And you make an excellent point. You make an excellent point, which I think though can also lead us into our parting shot for the day.
Yes, it can. This is a great one here, by the way. We just celebrated our nation's independence celebration of such, and this is a great little comic strip here. So,
Mike, that was you in your younger days, wasn't it?
That's me. The other day, I just had the
other day.
What I did is I elongated the camera and did the squeeze. You know.
Then I wonder how short those shorts really are.
Oh, listen. In the back, you could feel the breeze. I'm just saying. It's hey man, how you free this weekend? Wipes away single tear. I'm free every weekend. The only thing that's missing is an RV in the background. Like a trailer of some sort. But this is it. This is a great. This is what freedom is. There's some amazingly, the History Channel has been running some rather open, clear, unbiased views of the American Revolution. I did not think they'd be allowed to run. So maybe all the liberals had the weekend off and didn't know they were running. So it shows how we won our independence by shooting the British in the face, basically. So
shoot them in the face.
Have we go there? Listen, folks. If you don't know one name, and listen, I could give you the American Revolution is one of my specialty areas. But there's one name I think you should remember and you should look up, and that's Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks is the first, I would say, the first death, direct firearm, direct British Army death of the American Revolution. It happened, 5 years before we started the actual official American Revolution. Crispus Attucks was there at the Boston Massacre and was the first to die under the volley of fire from the British soldiers. And I think the most important part to remember about that is we're looking at 246 years ago, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Crispus Attucks was a free black man living in Boston at the time, and he was the first killed by the British soldiers.
Right, because they didn't want anybody. They most of all didn't want a group of people. They didn't want anybody to be free of their tyranny, and they didn't care if you were white or you were black. But they especially didn't want black people to be free of their tyranny.
And these men were standing shoulder to shoulder next to each other, white and black, in Boston. They were just Bostonians at the time, Massachusettsans, I guess is what you'd call them.
Mm-hmm.
We call them down south. We call them massholes, by the way. And just because of the way they drive when they come down here, come on, you accelerate to get on the highway. You don't stop. Okay, you accelerate to get on the highway. But different point. But these were brothers standing shoulder to shoulder, unarmed against the British soldiers, and 5 of them were shot and killed on the spot, white and black. Wow. Crispus Attucks, first man to fall under to a British rifle during the birth of our nation.
Right, but you would have people believe that our nation didn't become free from the war for independence, and that's what's so hard is that I get that we didn't start off perfect, right, as a nation. But we have, over the decades, we have gotten closer and closer to the ideal that is America. And that's what I think, for me, makes everything, with everything that's been going on, with all of the critical race theory and all of the stuff that's been going on, is that we are getting closer and closer to the ideal that is America. And we're not perfect. We're not there yet. But we have come so far, and we ought to be celebrating that. And we ought to be celebrating that we are on our way, instead of trying to tear down the nation. We ought to be lifting it up, and so many people. And
we were pretty good, pretty close there until our last 8-year president decided to take us back 40, 50 years in race relations. So that's him and his wife Michelle. Well, Craig, before we get off, though, I want to talk about our sponsor this week is Gorilla Machining. Now, listen, Grid Defense will be back with us. We just decided this week a couple of products to go out to you for Freedback Friday. You're going to get yourself a nice lower parts kit here from our good friends at Gorilla Machining. So Gorilla Machining, we thank you for the lower parts kits, and then they're also going to get a T-shirt made from Gorilla Machining. I don't know what size it is. We just kind of grabbed it off the pile. Listen, if you're fast enough, you can you could scan that in right now, and you can.
Or they could just hit pause after the show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. And you can see all the good products that our friends at Gorilla Machining have. So this Friday for Feedback Friday, you're going to win a lower parts kit for America's Rifle and a T-shirt to go with it. It's this T-shirt right here, by the way. Gorilla Machine. Well, not that one. That one's mine. You're going to get the one in the bag, the clean one. So, Craig, good program today. Anything on your schedule this afternoon?
Dude, I've just got so much stuff around the house to do. It's been one thing after another, but it's going to be all good because, one of the great things about working for myself is I love what I do. So I haven't worked a day since I went into business for myself.
Yeah, I say the same thing to my wife, and she's like, "Where's the paycheck, yo? Where's the paycheck?"
All right, folks. Well, hey, make sure you like, share, subscribe, visit our sponsors, and make sure you let folks know about the Rundown. This is the spot to be to talk about conservative politics, to talk about 2A news. This is the spot, and we need more of y'all to be watching and listening and commenting. And by the way, Feedback Friday is all about the feedback so that you can get the freebies.
Listen, send us your requests, whatever stories you see, whatever topics you want us to tackle. Send those to us as well. Like, share, subscribe. And best place to send those topics, Craig?
Actually, you can send it to us through Facebook at The Rundown. You can also email me at craig@usmediagroup.net.
Do it on the Facebook. We'll see you there, folks.
All right. Talk to you later.